comes to explaining the inspiration and psychology behind the intergalactic rock and roll being broadcast over the radio, Peter Jackson's Get Back is the only mega movie that will do. The obvious response is to advise them to park their saucer, it's going to take a while. Jackson has spent 468 minutes detailing about 20 days in the life of the greatest band in history. So in today's video, we will talk about why the Beatles' Get Back may stand as the best rock doc ever. The majority of recorded music was created through continual, amicable compromise amongst band members. As the primary negotiator for the Beatles in 1969, Paul McCartney is well aware of the many eggshells he must either tread on or shatter to attain greatness or get stuff done. If George Harrison hadn't quit the band for a few days, the first act of Get Back wouldn't have ended on such a cliffhanger. But in contrast to the stuffy image that has been portrayed of him during the Beatles' latter days, he seems surprisingly aware of the minefield of sensitivities around him, if often a beat or two later than the actual event has occurred. In addition to being well aware that being in charge comes with responsibilities, he is also fully aware of the personal sacrifices that this position requires. The joy of Get Back comes from witnessing McCartney acknowledge and explain all these changes and continue even as he gets slightly upset about them. As you near the end of the 8-hour Get Back challenge, every member of the Fab Four will have risen to become your favorite or greatest musical idol. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so for more Beatles content. After years of deliberation, the Beatles finally released Help in 1969, their third feature film after A Hard Day's Night. It was challenging for them to develop a script idea that reflected their more mature status rather than being a rehash of Richard Lester. But as Get Back's never-ending articulation of ideas and succession of offhand quips demonstrate, they needed to write their screenplay, albeit unintentionally. Eventually, McCartney will also have an eye infection. After an off-site, off-camera meeting in which Yoko was discussed, neither Harrison nor Lennon returned to the office. Water pools slightly in his stony eyes, just as it had in Harrison's, and he sighs, and then there were two. McCartney could have vented his resentment to Ringo Starr and the others in attendance, but instead, he gave a short, adoring speech about Ono. No, seriously, she is fine. They're content to be in each other's company. McCartney had little choice if he didn't want to go out on the White Album. Still, he seems to understand and accept Lennon's need for Ono as an emotional support person in the studio because he wants the friend who is bound to leave him in a year or 3 to be happy. Watching McCartney enthuse Ono in this film, Ono may even find herself saying, "He likes me," in surprise. After the couple cheerfully surprises McCartney by returning to the studio, the audience is treated to a jam session headed by Ono, with Yoko caterwauling as Paul bashes away on the drums. They're all enjoying primal shouting because it's emotionally charged and somehow fun at the same time. Personality conflicts and resolutions would be enough for most viewers if Get Back were a film on that subject alone. True fans, however, would be let down because of the album's underappreciated quality, which includes terrific songs like I've Got a Feeling, Dig a Pony, One After 909, Two of Us, and the B-side, Don't Let Me Down, which they would still want to hear performed together. What a novel idea for a documentary about music to focus on the creative process behind generating songs. Playing out throughout a box set, Get Back is replete with dozens of innovative breakthroughs and just as many instances of the Beatles being stymied. Certain musical breakthroughs indeed occur during the stressful first act, but the action heats up once the characters agree on how they will treat each other. Instead of a film about ending a relationship, Get Back is a mini-series full of amazing musical makeup sets. Even serial sourpuss Harrison gives up on the consensus. When good musical things happen in the second half, and he bursts into that crooked smile, it's like, here comes the sun. The The audience witnesses Get Back grow from its nascent beginnings to a raging river that serves as both the opening and closing numbers for the show's climactic rooftop performance. Lennon isn't on as much of a songwriting high compared to McCartney and Harrison, but his shockingly unwavering loyalty to Paul shines through here. McCartney is always able to make Lennon laugh out loud in surprise. This contrasts sharply with the disparaging comments that John would later make about several of Paul's songs after their official breakup in 1970. To say that the four members supported one another would be an understatement, especially regarding their music. Jackson's footage here, rather than what the guys would have said about each other when they were down, seems to be the best evidence of how they genuinely felt about each other. Hearing how deeply Lennon and McCartney cared about each other's songs in this context, Harrison worked hard to make beautiful additions to both despite his initial feelings, and Starr acted as the best glue ever made. There's not much we can use as a yardstick to compare the complementing modesty of Beethoven and Tchaikovsky, save perhaps to assume that Tchaikovsky frequently dropped by Beethoven's apartment to assist with the arrangement of his songs. When Harrison completed I Me Mine as the final track to be recorded for the Let It Be album, long after the original film and these recording sessions had concluded, he may or may not have been trying to slip in a secret message. Seeing the Beatles' joy at snatched victory from the jaws of defeat in Jackson's second and third positions make the phrase, "we, us, ours" feel all the more genuine. The Beatles' relationship teachings may or may not be generalizable to other contexts, but there are certainly some. It's not true that having a baby will fix a shaky marriage. It's reasonable to assume that adding Billy Preston as the band's fifth member would smooth things over if the feuding were among the Beatles. If only we hadn't brought along those other people. Jackson provides no modern talking heads for the events that followed the January 1969 Let It Remain sessions, so readers will need to be alert for the hidden symbolism. McCartney says he can't decide if he wants to add strings to The Long and Winding Road. All you can think about is how Phil Spector will soon take Schmaltz up the track and how the Beatles will be so preoccupied with their breakup in 1970 that they previously vetoed Spectorization will somehow slip out and become canon without McCartney's approval. Even though Glyn Johns tries to warn Lennon not to trust lawyer and would-be Beatles manager Alan Klein, Lennon continues to talk glowingly about his new acquaintance. These foreshadow political difficulties following the film's Happy Ever After climax on the rooftop. Orson Welles once observed, "If you want a happy ending, it depends, of course, on where you stop your story," and it looks like the place where Jackson stops his story could have been preserved if art and friendship had triumphed over attorneys. Perhaps the fact that Get Back is heading for a condition of grace that can now be summed up by a modern meme of the same name is sufficient. As of right now, no. Early in the second act, the film's most poignant scene occurs and then quickly disappears. There is no visual accompaniment. It takes place during the flower pot scene, in which Lennon and McCartney meet alone to discuss anything for once. McCartney assures Lennon that they will find common ground in their elderly age, and I believe that we will all sing together. Anyone hearing this prediction could feel a knot in their throat before their mind eventually drifts to, F you, Mark David Chapman. It's not even the whitewash some predicted, but props to Peter Jackson for putting together a film in which Beatles appear frozen in time, in agreement with each other, and singing together. This is the epic fade to black that the band has always deserved, but has never indeed received. Their legacy is a gift, and many emerging bands can learn from Get Back today how to improve a sad song by studying their example. Alright guys, we've come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you click the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, ensure you click the subscribe and most importantly, click the bell icon to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Also, feel free to leave a remark if you have any recommendations for videos. See you soon!